So this we're kind of entering that period where the right wing media in Canada is just going to do everything it can to attack the prime minister. Right? Doesn't matter. You know, if he holds a white kitten, they'll claim he's a racist. Just like we've entered that point where it's just open season, right? And all kinds of absurd things. So Trudeau reacts to the whole NAFTA thing with a claim that Canada will only respond to concrete proposals. And people get upset and don't understand what he's trying to say and everything else. So I've noticed this a lot, is that for some reason it seems to be that whether it's accidentally on purpose or it's just really bad comprehension levels, the media seems to have a really hard time understanding what Trudeau actually says. And so they skew his headlines. It's gotta be mostly accidentally on purpose, right? But it seems to be that like a lot of, if I can open up the article and read it and then read what he had to say and say, oh, the article's terrible, why can't other people do that? Like, why do people have so much difficulty, reading a page-long article, and actually trying to get to what it is that the topic actually said? I think it's pretty obvious that what Trudeau was trying to say here is that he actually does not expect that Trump will actually ask to renegotiate NAFTA. So he's not going to comment on a theoretical that he doesn't expect to actually happen. So the criticism is that he's opening Canada up to renegotiate what I guess. See, again, you got to remember this is old Tory media, right? A lot of the people that work in these for these papers were there in the Mulroney years, or got hired, right? It's going to be a nice part of the generation shift that's happening, is for the whole fucking Mulroney generation to just go away, right? Like, Mulroney's been gone a long time, but we're still stuck with these, for whatever reason, it seems to be that, it's roughly the same time period as Reagan in the United States. And for some reason, there's just all of these people that seem to really identify with that specific moment in their lives. I guess it's probably a large amount of it is probably a demographic bulge, but like, they're still here. These fucking old school Mulroney fucking Tories that still, and they think Mulroney was the greatest, prime minister of all time, even though I think that in the long run of history he'll be acknowledged probably as maybe not the absolute worst, but definitely the very bottom tier, right? If for no other reason than the catastrophe that was NAFTA itself, right? So the media looks at this agreement as some kind of an outstanding accomplishment, and to imagine that this liberal is going to undo this great grand Tory achievement is just, it's absurdity, right? And so they twist what he said. What he was actually saying is that he does not expect a renegotiation at all. And it's a standard public relations tactic when faced with a lack of clarity in events happening around you. And it is consistent with what he said earlier, too, that he'd love to sit down with the president and talk about renegotiating NAFTA. Sure, pull up a seat, Don. Because the Liberal Party always loved NAFTA, right? It wasn't something that Mulroney fucked up hard and that Chretien had no realistic means of escape from, and had to eat whether he liked it or not. When Trudeau said that he'd love to sit down and renegotiate NAFTA, what he was doing was he was calling his bluff. Sure, let's renegotiate NAFTA. Hey Don, there's this list of stuff here that we've been waiting for 25 years to get out of, but we couldn't because the other party fucked us over. Trudeau is not going to get along with Trump. And it may be the best thing he can hope for, too. Because nothing unites Canadians behind the Liberal Party like an asshole Republican in the White House. Just to be clear on this point, yeah, I'd love to renegotiate NAFTA. And I couldn't ask for a more clueless idiot than Donald Trump to renegotiate it with. How's that for playing a hand? I think your president's a moron, and I'd love to take advantage of that fact. Free trade with the United States, reciprocity, has always been in the Canadian interest. The Liberals have always supported it, but the agreement was negotiated and signed by the worst prime minister that the country has ever had. This is a guy that sold the country off. He threw away our sovereignty for nothing. He caved on everything imaginable. And so, of course, the Liberals opposed it. And they were right to oppose it. But then they win the election in 1993, and they can't escape it. If they sign it, we're fucked. We lose our sovereignty. But Clinton knows he can't get a renegotiation through Congress, and he's not interested in opening it up. Anyways, so if they don't sign it, we're even more fucked, because we're poking the eyes of our biggest export market. We're fucked if we do, and we're fucked if we don't. Thanks, Brian. Thanks, Lion Brian. It's a brutal cost-benefit analysis, but they were right to sign it, even after they were right to oppose it. So they signed a deal they opposed because they didn't have a choice, and they've been waiting for the opportunity to renegotiate it ever since. So yeah, let's sit down and talk, Don. You've twisted our arm. If the Liberals had the opportunity in 1993, they would have scrapped NAFTA and started from scratch. That wasn't an option then. We got sucked into an agreement that was primarily between the United States and Mexico, right? There was something previous to the NAFTA called the FTA, and it was bad, but it was better because it was actually about Canada. It was an agreement between the United States and Canada, a free trade agreement. It didn't have all of the clauses that were put in to address the fact that Mexico was a third world country, right? It was an agreement between two advanced economies. And it had problems, but they were nowhere near as bad. And I would strongly support this still today. Remember, if we trash NAFTA, the FTA still exists. And the FTA is better. So that would be a good start. But I mean, I don't count on it, right? This is there's a little blurb here explaining that the FTA does not have Chapter 11 in it, which is my biggest opposition to NAFTA is Chapter 11, right? It's not my only opposition, but it's my biggest one. So if Trump were to come in and trash NAFTA and revert back to the FTA and throw Chapter 11 in the trash, yeah, I'd be about 95% of the way there in terms of supporting a free trade agreement with the United States specifically. That's the biggest obstacle is Chapter 11. And abolishing NAFTA gets rid of Chapter 11 while maintaining the basic free trade agreement. That would be great. Playing a hand? What? Of course, the chances of that happening are close to zero. I don't expect that Donald Trump will say much of anything at all about NAFTA moving forwards. In fact, as I've said repeatedly, I expect that he will sign the TPP at the end of the day.